and welcome to the L&D podcast. I'm your host, Drew, and I'm here with my co-host, Lawrence. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks. So if you guys can see, we've got a third person on the screen today. This person I grew up with. Like, I've known her pretty much my whole life since we were little kids. Family friends, grew up in the same area. And I'm proud to say that, like, she's actually really, like, blossomed and built up her own business, and I've admired it from afar, just following on social media. So we've got here Tamanna, also known as, and the weird thing is we're Bengali people, we have two names. Her other name is Ratri. So if you guys get confused, I'm probably going to keep by default calling her Ratri because that's just how I know her, and she might call me by my other name as well. So it's Tamanna, and her company is Tamanna the Label, which is, my understanding is, it's South Asian. So the stereotype is Indian, but you've got Indian, Bangladesh, Pakistani, Sri Lankan, Afghan, Nepal, etc. That region of the world, that culture, they have a certain style of clothing. And I would say that it's pretty famous, it's pretty iconic, especially in female clothing, I'd say, like the saris, the lehengas, the salagamis, all these types of clothing. And it's pretty cool. Ratri started this company. It's called Tamanna the Label. And it's, if I must say myself, it's very like artistic and aesthetic, and it almost seems like a fashion label, but for the South Asian in the West. So in the Western world, not the Western suburbs of Sydney, but okay. So enough of that intro. All right, so enough of the intro done. Ratri, how are you? Tell us a bit about yourself, what you've been doing since we last caught up, and maybe like a brief spiel on like what Tamanna the Label is, if that's cool.
Well, thank you for that really, really nice introduction. I really did not know that you felt that way, but I was so happy when you reached out. So Tamanna the Label is my first business. It's a fashion label. It's something that I've wanted to do ever since I was really young. I've always had, the passion for fashion, if you will.
Yeah, you're always pretty trendy growing up.
I've always loved it, but I never knew how to kind of get my foot in the door. So I went the conventional route. Did business. I don't really know why I picked business, and I ended up doing accounting. Got my connection.
Economics.
I was really not great at economics. I thought it was a safe option, so I did that. Got my connection at a Big Four. Hit 25 and had a bit of a quarter life crisis, and I'm like, shit, I'm really not doing what I love. So I decided to kind of start this as a result of that, and it's just been great ever since.
Yeah, that's cool. I respect that. And if I go back, I remember economics, because I was in the year below you. You gave me your notes, so cheers for that. I remember you did really well in eco, so yeah. All right, well, that's cool. Like, I think a lot of people resonate with what you said, that working the corporate life, I mean, at the end of the day, it pays the bills. It's something to keep you occupied. Fair enough. If you don't want to if you don't want to risk it and do something completely different, I understand a lot of people like to just stick to it because it's safe and what's there is what they understand. But like, what was that jump like? I mean, I imagine it's pretty scary. Like, are you still working corporate, or are you like full time in the business now?
I'm not, but my parents don't know, so don't tell anyone.
Okay.
It's a bit bad to go on a podcast and keep a secret.
Well, your parents don't know. Don't follow.
I really think my parents know how to use Zoom, so they'll probably never see this. And if anyone's watching this,
if you want, we can edit this out.
No, it's fine.
All right.
It's time that I told them. I need to just grow some balls and tell them, but I just haven't yet. That jump was scary, but I think I knew that I had to have that safety net. I don't generally take really large risks without thinking about it. So I kept my job for as long as I could. And it did take me a few years to find an avenue and get my foot in the door into like how I can actually start this fashion business. But I thought about it for a while, and I just thought, if I start really small, if I start with, like an Instagram, grow my following, and invest as much as I can into it financially, and not kind of get into debt by doing that, what's the harm? And once I started really small, it just kind of grew from there, and I didn't have to like worry about it. It didn't keep me up at night. It was just something that I was able to do after work, and I was so much happy to wake up every day because I had something to look forward to, whereas before I was kind of in this like mindless routine, wake up, go to work, come back, and just shut off. And there was nothing like thrilling going on in my life because I wasn't applying myself in a way that I wanted to. I was kind of shutting myself off.
Yeah.
I was becoming more of a recluse at work. I was just disassociating myself.
Did people realize at the time, would they check in like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
Are you going to this meeting? What are you doing with this report? Like,
yeah, I was not performing well at work at all, and that's just not like me, because I like achieving things and I like applying myself, but I just found myself mentally so burnt out and drained that I was not performing at work, and I just didn't know how to fix it. I didn't really care to fix it, because at the end of the day, it wasn't my goal to become, you know, a manager or a partner. I just did not see myself like being 45 and being happy and doing that.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it was always my goal to just be happy doing something that I was really passionate about. And once I realized I wasn't going to get that there, my mind started racing and wondering how I can, you know, just change it for myself.
All right. Well, I can like interject all the time because I just know you from ages ago, Lawrence. Is there anything that you want to ask? Because I'm conscious of me just talking here.
No, I'm just sitting and like appreciating, like
I respect.
So I'm not like I'm just looking through your website right now, and like I have no idea what I'm looking at. So like, cause normally when I see
you're pretty cultured though, man. Like I'd say of like the non-South Asian mates that I have, you and your girlfriend Rhonda, you two are probably the more like aware. Like you know our food, like you know like aspects of our culture and like the dynamics, etc. with like parents and other families, because it's similar to like your Vietnamese culture. So I feel like you're kind of aware. You're not like completely like have no idea what's going on.
Yeah,
give yourself some credit, man.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at the clothes. So because I work in Southwest Sydney, so I'm used to seeing like Lebanese people with like the full hijab and everything. Is this similar to that, or is this like a fancy kind of like this is when you dress up, kind of trying to look nice, celebratory?
Yeah, because we're not like, if it was in Bangladesh, you would wear typically like traditional clothes on a day-to-day basis.
Yep.
But in Australia, because we're living here, we only really get to dress up every now and then, and that's what these clothes are really for. It's aimed at people like myself that have grown up with like two kinds of cultures and two influences. So that's why you might see the designs are extremely simple, and they're more monochromatic. They're more like basic, and you can dress it up yourself. It's my interpretation of the culture, and I think people can appreciate it when they've grown up like myself.
Is it like a Western kind of influence of that clothing? Because you know when we have like Eid and all our celebrations, I do see a lot of the time the women will bring the clothes from overseas. Like they'll get a relative, etc., to bring it over, post it over, and it's really like, you know, a lot of the time it's flamboyant, lots of designs, lots of jewelry. But your one's almost kind of like it's aesthetic, and it's still traditional, but it's very, like you said, monochromatic. And is that because you're trying to find like that in between, like there's a Western influence to it?
It's always just been my style. Like ever since I've been going to Bangladesh and designing my own clothes, because that's what I started off doing, just doing it for myself personally. I've always been drawn to very simple, basic looks where you're doing the talking, not your clothes. Your clothes are not holding you back. You're not being drowned by these like over the top kind of designs. So that's what I've just always been attracted to. And with fashion and having your own label, I think it's extremely important to have an aesthetic that people can relate back to you. As soon as they see it, I want people to be like, that's a Tamanna the Label design. So I've been really conscious of being really true to my own style. And I think people have been appreciating that as well.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Sorry, Lawrence, were you going to say something?
No, not really. I was just going to say the designs are beautiful. Honestly, like, because it just looks clean, and even like, all of it looks good.
Not everyone's happy, but I think I need to find a niche of people that like appreciate that kind of just like understated style.
And, I mean, I was looking at your website today, and I was looking at the men's section as well. So you do have a men's section, and they're called I don't know how to say kurta. Is that right?
Yeah.
We call that Punjabi, right? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But like kurta is that the Indian word for Punjabi?
I think so, yeah. I think so. And that's like another crazy thing about it. It's like we all share so many like designs just between so many countries, and like I think with now the internet and like, you know, globalization and all that, like at the end of the day, they're all designs and you can wear clothes from like any other country, but it's just a matter of like what we call it or what they call
all
it.
right, I need to jump in. I actually like in my notes. I was like, one of the things I wanted to ask you, but I was a bit like sitting on the fence with it because it is controversial.
Yeah.
All right, sorry to put you on the spot, but what do you feel about like cultural appropriation and things like that? Because I think it's really cool, to be honest, and I might get slammed for this when I see people from different ethnic backgrounds wear our clothing. I see that as like respect, like they're respecting our culture. They want to try it out as well. Like I like if it's within the context as well, if they go to like a, you know, Bangladeshi wedding and they dress up in a sari or a Punjabi, I get that, and I appreciate that. Or they're married into like a Bangladeshi family, and therefore they're respecting that traditional culture. And same goes for like Vietnamese, Chinese, etc. If you're the other person, but a lot of the time there's a lot of backlash and people don't like it. They're like, oh, they're appropriating our culture. They're like, oh, look at this white girl or Asian girl wearing a sari. Like they tend to hate. I mean, what are your views on that?
I think I don't really have a problem with it if it's done, as you said, respectfully. If someone's appreciating your culture, I think it's such a beautiful thing. I've had so many girls from like different, you know, nationalities tell me how beautiful they think my clothes are and want to wear it at like, you know, their friend's wedding or just, you know, for the fun of dressing up. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But I think one thing that I have been reading about and feel strongly about is lots of fashion brands and, you know, people in the creative space that take, you know, inspiration from all these different cultures. But when it comes to standing up for them, like, for example, what's happening now in America.
Minneapolis.
Yeah, they don't, that's when they're not speaking up for the minorities, and that's when they're not backing them. So you can't take from a culture just purely for the aesthetics. You need to actually like love it at the same time, love the people, understand the people, and treat them like human beings. So that's why a lot of fashion brands are being called out now for, you know, appropriating Black culture, but not giving them the voice or not standing up for them when they need to. So that's happening right now.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of the time it gets like you don't see that action, or you see the lack of action because they're worried about shareholders and profit margins and making sure like board of directors are happy, things like that. Yeah,
the lack of action. Say, for example, if like a brand is just being completely silent right now, this is not a time to be silent about those things when, you know, people are having their lives on the line.
But I feel like if you actually put something out and say, oh yeah, I support it, then like you would get so much more praise, really, because the majority is like supporting this case right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a very fair approach to have. It's not unreasonable. I mean, like in your case, Rafique, like Tamanna the Label, what would you say is your customer base? Is it brown people? Like, is it brown women in Western countries, or is it a bit more mixed? Like, what are you seeing out there at the moment? What kind of interest do you get?
I think, brown people, South Asian.
All right.
South Asian.
Okay, my bad.
South Asian people. I say it all the time. Sorry.
I'm not the most politically correct person.
South Asian people that have grown up.
You can just say Asian, really. Technically, you're Asian and I'm Oriental.
Yeah, technically I'm Asian. South Asian people that have grown up like me in maybe a Western country that are looking to new brands or new fashion brands or new South Asian fashion brands to highlight the fact that their taste might be a little bit different. So it's just a new, fresh interpretation of our traditional culture. That's just anyone that appreciates that. And you could be someone living in Bangladesh or India and have completely grown up there, but if it's just someone that appreciates this kind of aesthetic.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah. Have you been affected by the pandemic? So, like, that's your target audience. Do you get most of your sales in Australia, or has it been, like, in the America, US, UK kind of region?
Well, I'm completely online. So most of my sales are made just anywhere in the world. It's not even just Australia. So the biggest customer base that I have is in America, just because like there's so many people there. The population is just like so large. So America, UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand as well. So that's where I have most of my customers. And yeah, of course I've been affected by Corona. My warehouse, my factory, my design factory, everything is in Bangladesh. So I go there once a year, I design everything, and then I've got a team there to look after the operations whilst I'm not there, and I just do everything else in Australia. Bangladesh is completely in lockdown now, so they're not really, they're not letting any air freight in, air freight out, and even if Australia is now kind of slowly getting out of it, it's going to take Bangladesh I think a longer time to recover from it. So we've just had to be proactive in how we deal with the situation. Luckily I have a lot of stock in Australia, so I'm able to send out stock from here. But other than that, just because events are not running as much as they were, weddings are not happening, people are trying to stay in more, sales have been affected there as well. So I think the most important thing for me right now is just to keep my company relevant, prepare for my photo shoots that are coming up just as meticulously as I can, put so much thought into it. So those are some positives that have come out of it. I'm able to now really think about my aesthetics coming just in the next year, what I want to communicate through my photo shoots, and just I think putting more thought into how I communicate with my followers as well. So when this pandemic first started, I was so upset. I was like, I've been, working on my next collection, my collection 3, for about 6 months. I even went to China for it.
Saw the videos.
Yeah. So blood, sweat, and tears. Just worked so hard. Went to Bangladesh, worked non-stop for about a month, and then I come back and this happened. So at the starting, I was just like, I can't believe this happened. Obviously, this was going to happen to me. But I think as I started reading, I'm like, you know what? Everyone's in this together. People are in much worse places than I am. So I think just trying to come back from that and just thinking positively. Right now I'm in a much better place just mentally. I'm like, well, there's so many things that I can do. Like, I'm learning how to use Photoshop, I'm learning how to use Lightroom properly, like all these things. Or I used to do just minimally. Now I'm like actually learning how to do this, and this is going to be so helpful for my my future. And there's so many other little things that I'm learning now and taking the time out to learn, whereas before I was just kind of rushing things. So that's a good thing that's come out of it.
That's cool, man. Like, I reckon being adaptable is key, and I like that you're also showing that gratitude or gratefulness for your situation that you're in compared to other people. And if anything, just an observation, I'm no expert. I haven't started my own successful business. I'd like to one day, but I haven't. But from the outside looking at your situation, I feel like because you're still relatively early on and you are young, going through something that as big as this early on is only going to make you stronger. It's a bit of a cliche, but it really is. If you're going through a situation, the results of this are that you're able to deal with an adverse situation where potentially your sales are down at the moment, but then you're upskilling yourself. You're able to pivot in a different way. I remember you used to watch Friends. Remember Ross pivot? That's every time I say about the pivot, I think of that scene.
This is going to change our lives forever. We are never, ever, ever going to be the same. It just taught us to be so much more resilient and empathetic towards people that are going through it much worse than you are. I'm so lucky that I still live at home. Things could have been much worse for me if I was renting or something or doing something else. So just being appreciative of the things that you do have, because people are going through it much worse than you. Also taking the time out and just to learn my craft so much more. I just love that I'm able to do that now.
What is your how do you go about designing? What's your creative process? I mean, I remember I think you used to paint or draw or something like that. You had those artworks in your room. If that was was you. Yeah, I remember that. You were always into music as well, Red Hot Chili Peppers, A$AP Rocky and stuff like that. Even the black, I can see the black poster, black outfit, yeah. Do you remember I used to give you shit about being emo when we were kids?
I've done some things in my life.
But yeah, okay. Going back to the actual, I guess, point of my rant or question was, what is the creative process? I'm not a creative person, so I'm just interested. I've always been more of a numbers kind of person. So how do you go about? Do you just sit down and set aside, okay, for the next hour, I'm just going to draw, design, and then do it in blocks, or is it kind of okay, you need to put a bit of background music, get into a nice flow,
I'm not sure. I think inspiration comes from like just anything. Like I could be half asleep and I think of an idea and I'll have to like get up and I'll have to, you know, see it through. I don't really have like a set way where I sit down and like I think about it. It happens anywhere. The only time like I actually force myself to like finish the designs or like finish the task at hand is when I'm gonna be going to Bangladesh and, you know, like I really just don't have any more time to dwell on it. I think if you ask most like creative people in this space, like you can dwell on something for so long, you can think something's not perfect for ages, but there comes a time where you just have to execute. So you could ask me to do something now, but I could like take like a year doing it. So I think going to Bangladesh the month before, I know that I have to get it done. I have to stop dwelling on it. I have to kind of put my foot down, have the set designs that I have, and then I go to Bangladesh and then I try to execute them. Half the time, half of my designs like don't even end up getting made because of just all these reasons. Like I might not find the same material, the capabilities of my tailors just might not meet what I want to actually make in the end. So I always have to what do you call it? What's that word? Just be adaptable and be ready to make changes. What the vision that I might have had in Australia, it could be completely different in Bangladesh. So I try to not get set in a certain. I have to be as like, what's the word?
No, you have to be in the flow of things. Like
Completely flexible when I'm designing. So when I go to Bangladesh, basically anything can change. It's just when I come back and I've done the hard work and I've actually have my designs, which I'm at this point now, I can actually do the fun stuff which is organizing the photo shoots, and coming up with the concepts and seeing how I can best market the designs that I've made.
Yeah, that's cool.
Sounds intense.
It sounds like a lot, yeah.
Do you like use any like diaries or self-development stuff to like just make sure you're on task, like calendars, anything like that?
No, just the traditional to-do list. So I've just got things that I need to do.
Notepad and pen each day.
Pardon?
Notepad and pen each day, that kind of thing.
Just a notepad and pen and list that I have on my computer. I use this thing called what's it called? It's like this online like diary system. So I just write down everything I need to do, and it's just compartmentalized into like just things that have to do with like finance, marketing, social media, like tasks, because it's a business and I have to look after the whole thing. I have to wear.
Are you doing it yourself, or do you have people helping you with this kind of stuff?
Well, I have to run the whole thing, but then I have people that help me. So I've got an accountant. I'm doing the designs. I'm doing the social media. I do most things by myself, and if I need the help, I'll reach out. So my cousin in Bangladesh is doing the quality check. Physically, I can't be there just to check everything. So I've trained her up on how to kind of look for everything and set things out from there. And obviously, I have my tailors. But yeah, fundamentally, I'm looking after everything myself, which is quite difficult because you have to wear all these different hats. Just because I enjoy design and I started this because I love fashion, it doesn't mean I can be any less talented in the finance area of it. I mean, that's just as critical. And so I thought that was one thing that I had to learn. Is like I thought that I would never have to look at accounting.
Well, at least you had that background. You weren't like a complete coming from left-wing artist that had no experience. Like you work corporate, you're an accountant by trade. Like you understand to a certain degree a lot of these things. They would be completely unfamiliar. Yeah,
I mean, I'll never knock my experiences that I've had at my previous job, or like the fact that I did business, even though I hated it. I can understand the skills that I got from it, and I can appreciate that, you know, these are skills that I'm going to be using for the rest of my life. Would I, you know, advise someone to go through the route that I did? Absolutely not, because if you love something, then you should, you know, go and try to make it happen as fast as you can. I think I dwelled on it for way too long. I just wasn't confident enough in my skills, so I didn't open up my brain to the fact that I can actually make something like this happen. When I was younger, I just thought I had to take that traditional route. if I could go back, I would have done a design degree. That would have helped me so much more right now. I'm not letting it hold me back, but it would have helped me a lot more if I did a design degree, and then I could have like learnt the accounting and finance stuff as as I did it. But yeah, I think you just have to look at the positives and negatives and just continue.
I mean, that's really cool. I mean, sorry, I just wanted to quickly give you guys a reminder. It's been about half an hour, so we're nearly coming to an end.
Oh, yeah.
It's just flown by. But Lawrence, did you want to add anything? Because I have one more question on Ask Rotary.
No, you can ask a question if it's the same question.
Okay. I just wanted to ask, like, what's been the feedback, reception experience like with your parents, your brother, even your inner circle of friends?
When they ask that, oh my God, dude, oh my God, you know my parents, right?
Yeah.
You know my mom.
Yeah, I love your mom. She used to always make like food for me. She'd invite me over. A lot of time you weren't even home. She'd just call me over. I'm like, yeah, sweet dinner.
Where's my invite?
This is ages ago, man.
Oh, mate.
Lovely. But when I first told her that I wanted to start this business, holy shit, you should have seen the tears.
Yes. Your mom used to cry so easily.
Oh my God. Dude, there was this one time where I was out of home and I already told her that I was going to do this, and that effectively meant that I wasn't going to do my CA. My brother called me.
Saying that to Bengali parents, that's brave.
He called me up and he was like, dude, come home right now. And all I could hear in the background was like, like someone had fucking died or something. Like you thought, like it literally sounded like I told my mom that someone died.
Yeah.
The reception with my parents was just not positive in the beginning. Like they were so disappointed. Imagine. My mom was like, I can't believe I came to Australia for you to be a shopkeeper. I was like,
jeez, savage. But you gotta love ethnic parents. They're so savage.
Yeah, ethnic parents, so good.
Garments, Korba, which means like you're gonna work in garments, which is like something that they just do not appreciate.
Yeah.
They just couldn't believe that they came all the way here for me to just end up doing that. And I understand where they're coming from, but I just had to persevere through all that. Like that was mental torture for me in itself. That really hurt. But because I loved it so much, I had to just keep going. Yeah.
And what about your brother? How's he? I imagine he'd be more supportive.
Yeah, my brother's cool. He was really supportive. He's always supportive. He's extremely creative himself, so he likes people that kind of pursue things that they like. And yeah, he's been great. My dad was really supportive.
That's cool.
Like he after he got over the whole CA fiasco, he was just like, I'm happy that you're doing this. And now that it's been quite some time, they see all the positives that are coming from it. Like I'm reconnecting with like the Bengali culture. I'm seeing my cousins a lot more. I'm like willingly going to Bangladesh. Whereas if I didn't have this, I don't think I would be going to Bangladesh as much.
Yes, I feel bad.
Wouldn't be as connected.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Yeah. No, I was just saying, I haven't been so long, I feel bad. But I've noticed that the older I get, and I imagine this is your same experience, but the more like I care about my culture and the more like cultural I'm becoming, like I'll go out of my own way to like take my friends, my family, etc., to like our cultural kind of events, food,
It's weird how that happens.
Movies. Yeah, like when I was a kid, I was like, oh, come on, this is lame. But now as an adult, I'm like, no, I respect it. Like, this is who I am. This is part of me.
Yeah, it's weird. Like in this like ISO as well, like I will willingly sit down with my parents and like watch a Bengali movie. Whereas if we were younger, like we'd be like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. It's so weird how that like 180 happens as you get older.
Sure. Yeah, I can totally relate. All right, Lawrence, bring it home for us, mate.
Oh, mate. So this is the Listen and Do podcast. So what can someone do in the coming weeks or in ISO or coming out of quarantine to get them started on their journey? Would it be business, fitness, finance, whatever?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Well, can I just quickly say, we didn't even touch on fitness. You used to be really into fitness. I don't know if you still are.
Yeah, no, I still am. Sorry, I thought you were doing an outro, like you were going to do some spiel and just like take us out.
No, that's
well, we'll edit that.
Man.
We'll edit that in. But yeah, we really just want like what's something that you can listen to from this and then do, like Lawrence said, in those areas.
Right.
Do you get it? Listen and do.
Listen and do. I understand now. That's really good. I'm so proud of you guys. What's something they can do? I don't know.
All right. What would you say to
Something
your?
did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is something that you did?
I think I'll go with something that I did. It's just that now that like we have the luxury of time and we're living in like Australia and like somewhere like we just I think we're kind of protected from situations that like other people might not have the luxury of being protected from. So in this isolation, we have the luxury of time. We have the luxury of staying in. Don't waste the time on Netflix. Like it's so easy to just sit down and like just continue watching shows and just feeling like a waste of space. But if you're going to bed every night like uninspired, you're doing something wrong. Just continue to watch people that inspire you. You know, listen to podcasts, watch interviews, documentaries, and then be inspired and take the lessons that you get from that and put it into action. It might be just starting really small. I think my one advice is just start as small as you can, because that one action that you do is going to take you to the next level. It's like you just have to start so small. When I started my Instagram, I had 0 followers, but as soon as I started that, something clicked in my mind that I was like, well, now I need to post a photo. Now I need to do a caption. Now I can do this. Like it just starts so small, but then from the tiny actions, it becomes bigger and bigger. So if you have a goal in mind, you just need to start.
I like
Atomic
it.
Habits
I reckon that was
by
powerful.
James Clear.
Yeah. No, that was really good. That was pretty powerful, actually. I reckon a lot of that, like we resonate with, like we tend to do as well. Listen to podcasts, you know, working ourselves each day, making sure that we're not wasting our time, although we sometimes do.
You're wasting time. You can waste time. It's just that if you are, like I waste time all the time. I dwell on things and you can do that. But I think overall, if you're going to sleep really unhappy, I think it's time to make the change.
All right. No worries. We'll leave it at that. Lawrence, thanks as always. Rafique, thanks for joining us. Tamanna the Label. We're going to share your social media. So we've got at Tamanna the Label on Instagram. We've also got Tamanna the Label's website. I'll put the URL here. It's just tamannathelabel.com. Nice and simple. And then on Facebook, we've got facebook.com/official Tamanna the Label. So we'll link all those in our podcast notes.
Yes, because someone scabbed my name. Someone saw my name and scabbed it, so I had to put the friggin' official at the end.
Well, I mean, maybe it's a compliment. I don't know. They like your name. All right. Maybe. No worries. Ending the podcast now. Thanks for joining us, guys. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in. Keep in touch with us on our Facebook page, the L&D Podcast. If you like what we're doing, subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or any Android-based apps. For any feedback or topic suggestions, leave a comment and rating. Thanks again for listening. Now it's time to go out and do.